Namaskar, hello and welcome. You're watching Lockdown Art Series with me, Nagesh Rao Sardesai. We are having a guest today who is very interesting and very invigorating. I'm sure his talk is going to be very enriching as well because he's one of the topmost abstract art, or rather, he's the topmost artist or abstract artist in Goa. He's the one who got his degree from Goa College of Art and then moved on to start painting continuously. At the same time, helping his parents run their business. At the same time, he also did not lose focus of the style that he got excited about, that is abstract art. And he kept on doing it for the last 40 years, that is 4 decades, without looking at the market trends, without looking at the financial aspect of it. He never bothered about it. That's the love and that's the passion he has for abstract art. And he kept on doing it. And it's very rare that somebody does not look at the market trends, because you usually you tend to turn towards market or tend to get excited and get move towards it, because that is the way you can make money. But he did not bother about it. He was more passionate about painting rather than making money, and that is what he does. He also tries to help a lot of artists. He organizes camps. He had his shows in Goa, in India, and outside as well. He was invited to a number of art camps, and I think that itself talks about this great artist Suhas Shilkar, who is a good friend of mine. Surprisingly, we are having a second generation friendship. His parents were my father's friends, and he happens to be my friend. Even though he's way elder, way senior to me in college, he has remained a very good friend. Did not treat me, or rather, he treated me equal and did not treat me as senior and junior, and always tried to help me. In fact, I'm very grateful to him that he, on his own, without me asking him, handed over or lend a book to me of an art critic, an American art critic, and said, "You have to read this so that you improve your skills of critiquing about on art." I think this is something great, because I did not ask for it, but he felt that I should improve. He realized that I should improve, and that's the spirit that he has. That's the passion that he has for society, for other artists. It doesn't bother about somebody else going above him, or whatever it is. He feels that every artist should learn something and move and improve and make a mark. And he's passionate about Goa as well. That's the reason he tries to support many artists through financial support, through helping them sell their work of art, to helping them organize their work of art. He's none other than Suhas Shilkar. Welcome, Suhas Babu.
Hello,
Welcome.
everybody. Good evening.
Let me begin as I begin every time, because these are very trying times, and I start with the same question. It's repeated again and again, because we are going through a very testing times today due to coronavirus or COVID-19, whatever, and it has gripped the whole world, and Goa is not far from it. So how do you see this as an individual human being? What is this coronavirus come to teach us?
See, my reaction to this particular pandemic is like any other person. It's nothing special or artist. I don't believe that they respond in a very special way or something like that. There is the regular anxiety about what shape it is going to take, what precautions we have to take, and how to deal with our day-to-day affairs during the lockdown. How to what is it called? Adjust your daily routine to the new situation which has occurred. So it's just like any other person, except that my routine or my schedule is arranged around painting. So in that sense, it is different. Otherwise, from the point of view of, or from thinking about it, the regular precautionary measures, little bit of anxiety about the since I have just crossed 60, so there's a little bit of anxiety since it is supposed to affect senior citizens slightly more, and that's it.
Yeah, that's good, ma'am. You've taken it in a stride. How do you react now as an artist? I want to know. What do you think about it as an artist? Because a lot of people are quarantined. They have taken an advantage out of it. It is a boon, in fact, not a bane for them. Of course, we cannot say it's a good thing that has happened, but things have changed. People have started looking at life in a different perspective, and artists have begun to look at life from a very different perspective. So, how do you look at it as an artist?
See, my principle has been always to make the best of any given situation because that's the only thing which is in our hands. So initially, of course, when the first lockdown happened, there was a I didn't know what to do about how to go about it. But then I started what is it called, making a lot of pen and ink drawings. So I filled a couple of sketchbooks with black and white drawings, with drawings uh, giving them various characters, sort of. And initially it was sort of a boring, but later on it picked up, and I developed more interest. I discovered new things, or new forms, new ways of handling ink, and what is it called? New ways of handling paper. I tried different types of paper. So this process continued for about 1 month, and then uh, since I always keep a stock of material in my house, material of painting like colors, canvases. So it was not very, what is it called? It was not very difficult for me to start painting. So I started painting, and this new series which I had started just before the lockdown, uh, by the name of Walls of Goa. So it is based on basically the weathering, the effect of moss, the effect of rains on the walls of Goa. Wherever you go around in Panjim, especially where I'm moving, so I keep noticing those different textures, lines, forms, colors on the walls. So they inspire me. I don't try to depict them, but they inspire me to create paintings. And this is the series I was started in this particular lockdown, and I have completed about 4 canvases.
So that's pretty much. Um
Yeah.
how has it
In three
inspired?
months, it's not much.
No, no. That's true. And being in the house and doing that much is not much, of course, for an artist like you. But how do you react as an artist? I mean, in the sense, did the I mean, you are an abstract artist, no doubt. But did the issues that are happening outside affect your painting? In the sense, it has crept into your painting. Like there are some wars in the world, and then some artists try to get it out in the on the canvas. So did that happen? Do you think it has crept into you?
It could be or must be happening unconsciously. Consciously, as such, I don't see. But it could be naturally everything that what is it called, goes around in the world affects everybody, including the artist more so. But this particular thing, I don't know exactly whether it has affected or how it has affected, because the series which I was started before the this corona thing started. So in the process, how it has affected, that is for the viewers to, what is it called, judge or analyze or look into it. For me personally, the moment the painting starts taking shape, it's a process which takes over, and then there is not much of what do you call, reflective thinking or
Consciously.
calculated thinking which happens. It's a process which takes over, and every step decides the next step.
Mhm.
So in that sense, it's not, there is nothing calculated as such. Like this particular corona thing is going to affect me, or something I have to paint something dark or something bright or something like that. Nothing of that sort. It's the
True.
process of painting which totally envelops or totally overtakes, and there is no room for somebody to some part of myself to peep over my shoulder and analyze what I'm doing. There is no part left.
Got it. It's like you are in the flow. It's like you are in the flow.
Yeah, I'm in the flow. I'm in the flow fully.
Got it. Got it. Immersed in it. Having said that, I will also ask you. You are an abstract artist. In fact, we have a concept called from Murt to Amurt, or from form to formless. We have a concept in our spiritual world, in fact, which talks about this from Akar to Nirakar. So, do you see yourself as a spiritually inclined person, or do you feel that there is some force which is guiding you because you are into abstract, and abstract is something that is more of you might not be spiritual, but it seems to be spiritual in the sense that it goes into an abstract thing which makes you think more, or feel more than think more, sorry. So how do you see yourself as a spiritually oriented person? Does somebody guide you? Do you feel that you are doing the painting, or it just flows, something else comes into you? Not consciously, probably subconsciously.
See, it is more of a compulsion. The source of compulsion exactly is difficult to pinpoint. If you could put it as spiritual, you can say it is spiritual. But source is life itself, with all the, what is it called, all that life has to give, all that one faces through life. That is basically the source. Now, life itself being spiritual, so one can, I don't separate as such the spiritual part and the non-spiritual part.
Mhm.
For me, the whole aspect of living is spiritual, if you consider it that. So there is this compulsion. It's not exactly that one thinks and one goes out to paint, or like it is depicted in sort of stories or movies. It's a compulsion. It forces you to paint. It forces me to paint. So there is something building up. The moment it reaches its what is it called, the brim, then it spills. So in that sense, yeah, you can say. And the other point is about akar to nirakar. So one would put it as see, there are two. There is a concept in Advaita known as Anvay and Vyatirek.
Mhm.
In Vyatirek, one goes on minusing everything till one reaches the formless.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and then the experience of the formless, one brings it back in the form, in the world. So whatever one has experienced there in the formless, all those riches one brings back into the formal world. So in that sense, you can say that the form and formless, these stages, you can say they alternate, but not consciously. It happens, one can say. Now, over the years, when one looks at one particular, when one looks at one's oeuvre, then you feel that there are certain periods when one has painted more and bigger, stronger forms. Certain periods you have gone in for more minute forms and more textures, more sober forms. Again, the form starts emerging on the canvas. Sometimes they become very strong, bold, violent. Then again, later on, after some time, again it changes. So this change itself is the part of the process, and I have not tried to control the change
Got it.
to suit the particular style or image, or to project a certain style. I have not never tried to, what is it called, control this process. In fact, I have given it a free hand. So in a sense, you can say that it is not only from form to formless, but it is back and forth.
Got
It
it.
is back and forth. Yeah,
It's sort of
that
organic,
is the.
goes on changing.
It is exactly.
Got it.
It is organic. It is very organic.
So if it moves from form to formless, it's like more of a very studied way of moving out. Here it is just moves according to your condition at that point of time. So it's more spiritual.
At that point of time.
Okay.
Yeah, at that point of time. See, whatever accumulates in your mind at that point of time determines the how the, what is it called, tools, or how the color or how the form moves on the canvas.
Got it. Got it.
That is the way it moves.
You are also a very voracious reader. I mean, you've read a lot of philosophical text, Nisargadatta Maharaj, and so on. So have those things influenced you in any way? Your reading, you're a voracious reader. I know. I mean, I can speak to you on different subjects, and we have sat together and spoken also. So, and I find invigorating talks from you. Uh, has your reading and has life made an impact on you as an artist? So that the
Oh,
audience,
definitely.
young artists, can understand what we're talking about.
Definitely. By itself, any reading is a great help to the artist, because reading introduces you to the new ideas, new ways of thinking, new ways of articulating what you feel. So that is very important. So my reading has been very varied, right from cosmology, which is one of my favorite subjects, to international poetry, which is again my favorite subject. Then again the Indian philosophy, which is also my very favorite. I read, as you have said, Nisargadatta Maharaj and all the non-duality texts, the Upanishads and all that I have read through and through. Also, I have read most of the Indian as well as the Western poets, right from, you can say, Latin American to Chinese. So I had done a series of drawings on the poetry of Czesław Milosz. This is a Polish, I think, poet, Czesław Milosz. I don't know whether I'm pronouncing him correct. Nobel Prize winner, one of my favorite poets, other than Fernando Pessoa, of course,
He's your favorite.
who is also one of my favorite poets. And I've got all his books in English translation. So this introduces me, when I read the poets from, say, Latin America or from Poland or from Eastern Europe, they have got a very unique way of using language and images, because it comes from a different culture. So they use the metaphors and similes in an entirely different way. And this is very beautiful. This triggers lots and lots of ideas in my mind for painting.
Uh-huh.
The way they use the language. Now, for example, if you say Latin American poets like Neruda or Octavio Paz or Alexandro, there are so many of them. Gabriela Mistral is there. So their way of using language is completely different from the way we use. The imagery is different. The similes are different. The metaphors are different, because they come from a very different culture.
Mm-hmm.
And this is quite fascinating. As an artist, for me, I find it very fascinating and very enriching.
Mm-hmm.
The way the thought process there works. In any part, African poets you can take, or you can take even Japanese poets or these Zen masters who are also poets,
Right.
like Basho and all these people. So these words, when I read them, they translate in my mind, or they generate like a plethora of images.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is what is called the wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Cosmos, the galactic clouds, the way the colors are shown in those galactic clouds. So those also enrich my sense of see, this reading experience for me has been a very enriching experience. It has opened new vistas, new ways of looking at the world, new ways of looking at art, and new ways of looking at life. So it has what is called broadened my thinking, my imagination, and plus what is it called? It has given me an added advantage of what is it called? Learning learning the language of people coming from different geographical backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
How they deal with life, how they deal with their experiences, and how they translate it into literature, poetry, and like that, so on.
But what made you get attracted to? I'm just asking this a co-related question. What made you attracted to something which is far off Latin America? What was that that triggered that? I mean,
incidentally, when I was young, that means I was in college, I think, maybe first year college or something like that. And I happened to read in Mandovi, perhaps we could not afford to buy books at that time. So there was a book of translation of poems of Pablo Neruda. And I just stood there and finished the whole book, standing there for about more than an hour and a half. And it was quite fascinating. I was very excited that such a thing, such a way of looking at things and writing can exist. So it was deep in my mind. So the moment I had the resources and I had the ability to write, to read, I at once acquired all those books and started reading them. And then it was like smooth sailing, you can say, or it was a joyride. Then I kept discovering new poets, and after Amazon, what is it called, came to India, it had become much easy to buy the books. So my first option was only spending, perhaps I did on luxury, was buying books. And those different poets from different, there used to be suggestions on Amazon. There still are, and they give reviews of books. So from those reviews, I checked in Google example, keep reading them. That is how I made a big collection of all these poets.
And who is your inspiration for painting? Who is your inspiration? Your father, your mother, your parents, your some artists in Goa? What led you to painting? I mean, generally middle class people like us usually don't move into that area. So what was that?
See, when I was in school, we used to get this magazine called Soviet Land. It was a propaganda magazine.
Yeah.
Perhaps I was in about 7th or 8th standard, and they used to get a propaganda magazine called Soviet Land. And Sputnik, this magazine used to come. Yeah. And occasionally at my friend's house, I used to get to see Span magazine. I had a wealthy friend whom I used to visit occasionally. So he used to get that Span magazine. So in that, I saw a painting of Miro and Chagall. And instantly I liked it. There was no second thought or no trying to find out, or it was never like something foreign to me or I had to understand it. I just took to it. And then I came home and I started trying to copy it from my memory. So it just wasn't looking something, though the painting was very simple. There was a red circle and a line and a background color. And I thought it was so simple and I would be able to do it. But I knew that it was nowhere near the original painting. So you can say that is sort of the beginning
Okay. So how do you?
of it. And second thing was that I at once realized that. And second thing is that looking at, then I got to see more artists in the similar magazines. And then I realized that as an artist, you can create your own world. So that was another fascinating idea and a trigger to go in for painting.
So, considering the current scenario and the economic slowdown, so obviously economic slowdown usually affects the art world primarily because that is the luxury part of it. So, how do you see artists as part of the society? How do you see artists now coping up with art? Do you think we should have some sort of a social commitment, or rather, we should just paint for the sake of painting? I mean, a very tricky question, not related to you probably, but I just want to know what are your views about it.
Social commitment in the sense since artist is a part of the society. So, and he exists because of the society. So he has to have a social commitment in some form or other. He cannot separate himself or isolate himself. There is no such thing as, according to me, at least, there is no such thing as an art in isolation. Art is a part of society. So being a part of society, whatever one must contribute to the society. So I do it my own way. Whatever this thing, I do it financially also. I try to help other artists by trying to sell their paintings or exhibiting, putting up their paintings in my house. Then I donate for charity causes. Of animal welfare is one of my favorite causes. So I'm a donor to all the animal welfare groups in Goa. So that I do. And then I give to this special children's school, is there run by Keshav Seva Sangha. So there also I donate yearly. So this way, wherever it's possible, I go out and do it. I mean, it's like almost, it's a part of my upbringing. Like my mother, as a child, when I was young, she said that if you think that after everything, after you settle down comfortably and then you are going to donate or do charity, it's never going to happen.
Ah,
And I've never forgotten that sentence.
okay. So you
So
keep
whatever may, whether small or big, I do my bit to the society.
okay. You also been into street art, that is graffitis. I remember you
Yeah,
told a friend of yours, and
yeah, yeah,
how is
yeah.
that made an inroad into your work also, and what was that? What experiment that you all did on the streets? I remember on the shutters of shops. So
Yeah,
tell us something
yeah.
so that we understand what is street art.
I mean, it was quite a fascinating. Yeah, it was quite a fascinating idea. See, in 2007 or 8, I think I had been to Sweden for an exhibition, an art camp. So there I saw the first time the actual original graffiti,
Hmm.
and I was fascinated by that graffiti. I just loved it, and then I said that well, I tried to. I wanted to incorporate it into my painting, and also possibly to start it in Goa if it is possible, and to inspire some youngsters. So basically, graffiti is more of an art of youngsters. So I wanted to do that. So initially, what happened after I came back, I contemplated for some months and years, and then I incorporated parts of it into my painting. I did a series of paintings based on graffiti,
Yeah, I remember.
and yeah, and I exhibited it also. So I tried to incorporate. I used spray cans, which were very rarely available that time. So some little bit here and there, whatever I could, I managed, and we did it. We meaning at that time I did it on the canvas particular, but on walls then I teamed up with the artist Norman Tagore since he was young, blood, youthful, and energetic, and he also wanted to do something unique and something lively, and he was also fascinated by graffiti. So we said that well, why not start it? So initially nobody was ready to give space and this and that, so that we had a go down in Miramar. So finally we chose that, and we went with a bang with a little bit of publicity and this and that and cameras and all that. So we did it. It was quite fun thing. We also enjoyed it. People also enjoyed it, and it was sort of a new thing. Perhaps I think maybe in India also we might have done it on this particular way for the first time. I don't know. But in 2011, there was it had come in newspapers also. Myself standing and Norman Tagore standing back to back with graffiti cans like guns. So we did it and we enjoyed it. Later on, we did it in Sunapranta, and then Norman did on his own. Then we had some other friends, uh, that artist from Margao. I don't get his name. He also joined. Then
Manjunath.
some other artists joined.
Manjunath,
They also Manjunath.
right?
So Manjunath also started doing it. Then some other artists were started doing it. I think after that it took took off, and I don't know whether exactly they are doing it now, but people are doing it. Some youngsters, and I feel that they should take it up because it is quite a refreshing activity. Secondly, it gives you a good control over the space, handling of space. It makes you fearless because you are doing working in the out in the open with public viewing you. And secondly, you get to have fun. You get to experiment with colors. You get to experiment with concepts. You can use there's a various types of graffiti which is happening around the world. So I feel that that particular side needs to be developed in the sense youngsters have to take interest in it and develop their own unique ways of doing graffiti. That we just gave it a start, but now it is up to the younger generation to carry it on.
So how do you see art in general and visual art in particular after post COVID-19 whole issue? How do you see art now? Because as I said, art is the last priority. How do you see art moving from here? Of course, we are going to pick up. Things are always not going to remain the same, but at least
Yeah.
for a year or two, it's going to be a very difficult task. How do you think
Yes.
artists should cope up with that?
See, it is going to be difficult for artists, more so because art is luxury.
Yeah.
It's the last lap of luxury. So, but still, I feel that there is a what is it called, a green shoot, in the sense that people are starved of spending on other luxuries like hoteling, this and that, or cars, maybe driving. So they will be left with spare cash or spare money, and I feel that that money will come in some form or other into the art scene, since other luxuries are not possible in the COVID days, or are a bit scary to indulge in. So that particular money should come into art. That is what my feeling is, internal feeling, and I see something what is it called, happening like that little bit. So that is other than that, things never remain the same. So it's not going to be always like, things are going to change, and perhaps the whole way the art is being exhibited and is being perceived and is being bought uh, looks like will change, though not in a major way, but in a in some way it is going to change how people are going to view art and how people are going to buy art. So that is going to change, definitely. About the subject matter of art, then I have no clue about how what shape it is going to take. Whatever shape it takes, we have to what is it called, accept it and move ahead with it.
That's true.
But from the financial point of view, it is going to be a tough time for at least a year or so.
That's
And
true.
artists will have to depend upon what is it called, some other source of income uh, to make their ends meet. So that problem is going to.
It's
But if they have to, I mean, artists as artists, they will be working and they have to keep working.
that's
So in that sense, there is not much of a choice. You cannot stop working. So somehow, if artists can come together, not as a sort of forming groups or something like that, but possibly in their hearts, maybe they can feel what a camaraderie with each other. Then they could perhaps help out each other in critical times.
that is true.
Yeah, we're keeping their insecurities aside. If they think in terms of the artist community as a whole, then it would be better for all the artists. That's what my feeling is.
Now, it should happen because we cannot float alone. We have to float together.
Yeah,
That we catch hands together and then float so that we all survive.
yeah,
That is true.
yeah. It does not work like on my own, and that thing doesn't work anymore.
Anymore, yeah.
I don't know whether it worked earlier, but in today's world, at least, it doesn't work that way.
That's true.
Isolated working and isolated dealing with art.
Right. And change is constant. I mean, you have put it so beautifully. I just like the fact that you looked at the whole scenario of COVID-19 issue and the post COVID-19 benefits or lack of benefits in a very positive way. I did not think about it that the people are going to, in fact, have a lot of money with them because they are going to be stuck with whatever they are having right now and reducing on their luxuries or other frivolous things that they were doing. So the money can be used to or utilized to buy art. I mean, this is a very positive way of looking at things. I never thought of it. It's great that you thought about it. And that is, in fact, a
Yeah.
positive. We require confidence like that.
No, in fact, those who are not aware of it, if they are made aware, well, it can click in their mind.
That's true. That's true. That's absolutely true. Okay. Before moving, or taking a leave, I would like to ask you a very final question, because you are quite senior now. You're
Ah,
60, so you are a senior citizen already officially, and you are also a very senior artist whom I think most of us respect and love and follow and try to take advice from you. So I would like you to tell my viewers, audience, young as well as old, artist, non-artist, some little advice from you, your wisdom.
the only advice I can give is to take advice from the younger generation. See, if I have to keep myself fresh, my mind fresh, I take advice from the younger generation. For me, the younger generation, how they respond to my painting is more important than my colleagues responding, because it's almost like, okay, I know how they are going to respond. Those who are going to like it, those who don't like it, not like it. But the younger minds, the way they look at your painting is from a different perspective. And I'm more interested in that, because that is where I learn. Like even when youngsters, young people come, suppose some collectors come to my house or relatives come to my house, they come with their kids. So I take special interest in asking them about my painting and how they see it. So that gives me new insights. So the only thing is that to keep learning, whatever may be your age, and to see what is it called, things in a new way. One has to do this, because as you age, your ideas start getting more and more solidified and, so to say, rigid. So to break away from that rigidity, reading is one thing I do, and the other thing I do is that I ask youngsters their opinions about my painting, or how I do, what is their response to my work, how it should be, whether it looks dated, whether it looks fresh, whether it looks outrageous. So the younger generation should ask the still younger generation what they feel about their paintings. So that is the only advice I. It's not more of a. It is like I take advice more than I give. Giving I can give only on a purely technical side of the, which I do give, uh, on the handling of material or a pigment
Experience.
or the quality of technical, very technical questions relating to the material of painting.
Mhm.
Those advices I give
Mhm.
to youngsters. But from the point of view of art, visually art, I usually avoid giving advice, because I feel that maybe I'm imposing, because it's that my youngster's mind is a new mind, fresh mind. He has fresh ideas, new ideas. So maybe that I may be trying to, what is it called, cut off his ideas or suppress them or try to dilute them. Rather, dilute them is the correct word.
Right.
So for me, that is more interesting.
Mhm.
My what is it? Interaction with the younger generation is from that point of view, from learning how they see
Mhm.
or trying to find out how they see, and not from the point of trying to, what is it called, give them some advice other than purely technical. Though technical advices they ask me, since that particular part of the experience I have got, but other than that, no.
That's nice of you,
My,
and this is what makes
my
you.
advice is, yeah, keep your mind open. Don't take that, don't wear the superiority or the age cap. You must have the, according to me, that is what I learned from Antonio. Antonio Costa is a very senior artist.
Yeah,
I admire him, I revere him. And I'll tell you a small incident. And
yeah. It is true also.
yeah,
Part of the organization.
so one day I go to his house and he asked me, Suhas, how do you feel this painting? So there is another friend of mine. He said that no, it's not working. It's failed, I think. So he said yes, and he gives it a second look, and he said yes, it's failed. Let me work on it. So he's 75, and he is ready to fail even at that. If you are not ready to fail,
Mhm.
you are not going to try anything worthwhile. new. So that being ready to fail at any given moment, in spite of the experience, is what counts, according to me at least. So a lot of paintings, I destroy about 70% of my work. I overpaint. If I do 10 out of that, 7 are mostly overpainted and overpainted and overpainted, and finally something remains. So the lot of destruction process goes on, which I don't like. Whatever I don't like or which I don't feel good at that particular time.
Mhm.
So being ready to fail in trying something is very important at any given age. So if you have that in mind, then that thing doesn't matter, or experience does not become a burden to you. Though it is in a sense, you have to consciously be aware of that burden, like living up to an image or something like that. Once you are conscious of that particular burden of experience, then you can sort of keep it away and approach the painting like a fresh crisis.
Okay, that's it, Swaspa. This is what makes you different. In fact, that is what I like about you. We had a very enriching talk, I suppose, and I'm sure most of my audience might have they enjoyed it, and I'm sure they will look at it and read and try to listen to it every now and then, because I think these are very different thoughts that come out from Suhas Shilkar. I think some sort of a normal mundane issues, he looks at them from a very different perspective as what he did right now. Instead of giving advice, he said he takes advice from younger generation. I think that is what he makes, what he talks about is very sensible, because younger generation is one which is going to be the buyer and be the appreciator of the work of art, and in the trend is known through them. And that is what I am. So I suppose Swaspa is trying to say. And this is something that is great. I mean, I am sure you all are going to also propagate this particular episode, so that more and more people know about this channel, and more people know about this episode and the thoughts of Suhas Shilkar, a noted artist from Goa. We are coming at the end of this show. I would like to request you again. We are going through a very difficult phase, as I repeat every now and then, of COVID-19 or coronavirus scare, where it's imperative on our part to go out. Once we go out and come back again, we wash our hands, wash our legs. Most probably, or rather, you should have a bath, so that you don't contaminate your loved ones, near ones, and dear ones, the elders and the younger ones who are at home. And see that you are safe. The moment you move out, come in and have a wash. That's the best thing we can do. Use sanitizers and use most of the antiseptics that we are having at home. Try to remain safe. Try to minimize physical contact or personal contact with anyone. And most importantly is try to wear a mask every time you move out. So this is the mask you can wear, this type of mask. This is made by my sister, but you can buy it from anywhere else. And be safe and be healthy. That is what I would like to say. Let us meet next for the next episode. Goodbye. Thank you and take care.